Tonight, it's evening where we are. We are broadcasting from Windhoek. I have traveled all the way to Windhoek to be with my sister and my friend. My friend, like I introduced her last week, she's behind the camera. Khadija and
Jessica.
Jessica, all the way. So tonight we are sitting together. I hope our audience will enjoy the evening. And I will allow my sister to introduce herself. Yay!
Thank you, Suleika. Good evening, everyone. Live from Namibia, Windhoek, the capital city of Namibia. A warm welcome to my sister, friend, confident sister again. Welcome to Namibia. Welcome to Windhoek, and I hope your stay will be pleasant.
It has been beautiful thus far.
So we decided to do the podcast together tonight. Hopefully, God willing, all will be well. Thank you, viewers.
So we have a very interesting setup here tonight. I'm watching myself in the front, and at the bottom of the screen there's also a video. So if you see me looking down, that's just me checking the images and if everything is good. Tonight we have a very interesting topic to talk about. One might even say it is controversial. But truth is truth, fact is fact. And before we start, I would just like to encourage your audience to go and do a bit of research yourselves on the topic that we will be discussing tonight. Tonight's topic will be the prophets of the books. And when we talk about the books, we talk about the three Abrahamic religions, as they are called, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. Not so much Judaism,
Yes,
but more on
more Islam and Christianity.
more Islam and Christianity, and what our books say, how our books describe the prophets, where they are from, things like that. So we will use the Quran and the Bible as reference when describing the prophets. And like I said, I would encourage to research themselves and let go. Please like and subscribe and share our video and leave a comment below. If you agree, if you disagree, we welcome all comments.
Yes.
Yes. So Jessica, we were talking about the prophets.
Yes.
And I would like to start with the Quran, with the Bible first. I would like to discuss Jesus, as is known in the Bible, and Nabi Isa, as is named in the Quran. For Jesus, we will be using the Bible as a reference because the Bible has the verses pertaining to or pointing towards Jesus's race. So when I look at Revelations, it says, and I will quote,
Should I read it to you?
so this is Revelations
Yes.
1, verse 14 and 15. This is the international version. The hair on his head was white like wool, was like wool, and white as snow. The hair on his head was like wool and white as snow. His feet were like bronze glowing in a furnace, and his voice was like the sound of rushing water. So then we have two descriptions of Jesus's appearance.
Yes, of his complexion.
Of his complexion and how he looked. We give the Bible gives us two descriptions.
Yes.
First of his hair, that is woolly or wool-like texture, and the second one is the color of his feet, which is described as bronze glowing in furnace, or
we said earlier brass.
Brass, yes. Unfortunately, we don't have any color brass here, but I'm sure everybody is aware that the color brass is a copper color or brown color, depending on how long it has stayed in the furnace. And the verse describes it perfectly. It says, glowing in a furnace. So that means there was heat applied to it. And when we look at that, hair made like wool, we know that woolly hair is
Our hair.
our hair. For example, for example, yes, my sister's beautiful hair is a very good description of what we are talking about right now. And the color of his feet was bronze, and this indicates a dark color, a brown color. And so when I see the pictures of Jesus Christ in homes, and I see a white man, blue eyes and blonde hair, and I look at the description from the Bible, these are two totally different people that are being shown. I would sooner believe the Bible, or I would assume, or I would think that those who practice Christianity would believe the Bible's version of Jesus and his appearance.
Yes.
Yes. So what do you say about that?
Well, we interviewed someone basically today.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, we did.
Yes. So the questions was, I've asked her when she sees a white person, we as black people used to do this. But when we see one of our own, we would just be, oh, it's just this one.
Never mind.
Yes, and so we ask her whether she's ready to remove that picture from her home, because we ask her a few questions about her Pope. She's Roman Catholic. And we ask her, does she have any photos of the Pope in her house? And we asked her, my sister asked her, is she ready to take off the picture from the wall in the sitting room, in the living room? And then she says no.
Because like we told her, we read the verses from the Bible describing the woolly hair or the wool-like texture that God describes Jesus' hair as, which is a negroid feature, isn't it? A black feature.
Yes.
The woolly hair. We all know, those of us who are African, we know what woolly hair looks like. If you can imagine a pick, an afro with a pick, the hair, and it almost feels woolly and it looks big.
Broccoli represents it's in nature, it's plant.
Yes.
But when I read the verse, what comes to mind first was sheep.
Yes.
The hair of the sheep.
The hair of the sheep. Yes.
So for me, God was clear that Jesus was a black man.
Because even his feet is described as the color of copper.
Yes. So for me, God was clear on that. And that we as black people should understand. We were talking earlier about all these prophets, which is Abraham, whoever we mentioned earlier. And we specifically spoke about Jesus because there's a thing going on around the world. So whenever one pray, let's go to that. It's always in the name of Jesus. In the name of Jesus. Now the questions comes to mind. Is Jesus Lord? Is Jesus God? For me, to my understanding, Jesus was a prophet. Like any other prophet.
A man, you say?
Yes.
Yes.
He was a man. He was a normal man. Like any other. Ezekiel, we can mention all of them tonight. But we realize that in Afrikaans sê ons, my sister will translate it to English. Mense in die lande veraf God Jesus.
So what she's saying is just to interpret, people in our nation idolize Jesus.
Yeah.
Mm.
So for me, to my understanding, my research that I did, listened to numerous people spoke about this, and I did research myself. Jesus was a man, and God is God.
And another interesting thing about the color of the prophets, or where they are from. Another very important clue that God gives us is in Moses, when he talks. Now, this is in the Quran and in the Bible, where God describes Moses being in Egypt. And my first question to people is, where is Egypt? If you look at Egypt, Egypt is north of Africa.
Yes.
Right on the top. But it is still an African country. It is located at the top. We are at the bottom, the southernmost tip of Africa.
Yes.
That is South Africa and Namibia.
Yes.
They are on the opposite end of the equator.
Yes.
But still, it is on the African continent. And if we look at Moses' time, this was before we, can I say before there was any mingling with anybody else, right? We know that the Romans came during Nefertiti's time, Tutankhamun, her husband. And this is hundreds, if not, we don't know. I'm just saying it, hundreds, if not thousands of years, or at least 1,000 or thousands of years after God speaks about Moses in the Bible and in the Quran. And then I say, if Moses was in Africa, in Egypt, during that time, it can only be concluded that Moses was a black Egyptian. If we look at the hieroglyphics in Egypt, the paintings on the wall, they were very specific when drawing the colors of the people. You would get very dark colors, shading of very dark, shading of light brown, dark brown, all different types of dark skin colors. They could have easily taken white paint. If they could take black paint and brown paint and all these other color paints, I'm sure they would have figured out a way to make a white paint and paint the face white. If these people were white. But they were very distinct. They painted the faces dark brown, the arms a brown color.
They made sure that the message must be
clear. The message must be clear.
That the message must be clear. That my people, these people, if we if we won't be here to tell the story or to show the story, the next generation must know that we were dark people. Because back then, I believe, and so we all know, that melanin was, and I'm going to say, the favorite. We are God's favorite. We are the chosen ones. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. But if you say that you are the chosen one, do you actually believe that? Or do you only say that just to be heard? So my brothers, when we say that what our ancestors draw that time, they will make sure that we had to see, and they knew that if 10 doesn't see, one will.
But it is so very obvious. I think most of our history, African history, has been whitewashed, is what they call it. When they portray Cleopatra, it's a white woman. We know the woman was an Egyptian. We know that she was black. But like I said, because history is written by the conqueror, everything then became whitewashed. But we are looking at facts coming from science. We're going to use science tonight as well. Using science, using the books, using the evidence, and not some pseudoscience about what is actually going on with the prophets and their races. And so, having looked back at Moses and his story, so Moses was in Egypt, his Quran and the Bible very clear on this. His people was being crucified, or the people of the land was being crucified, and God said, take the people and lead them out of Egypt, lead them to the promised land.
Yes.
And as we know, this did happen. And Moses crossed the ocean or sea. Or there's a bit of a dispute where he crossed, which point he crossed. But we know he crossed into Jerusalem, into, I don't want to butcher the word, I don't want to say the word wrong now, but in today we would understand it as Palestine. He crossed over to that side, Palestine, Jerusalem. And if I say, this is my conclusion, if, can you hand that to us? Our lady behind the scenes, she's got a beautiful papyrus of the Egyptian characters. As you can see, these are all dark-skinned people. Their arms are drawn dark, their feet are drawn dark. As you can see, there are all different colors in the papyrus. So it's not as if they didn't have a yellow or a white or orange or green. Yes. They had all these colors, but they were very specific about drawing their skin colors in dark. So this is just an example of what we are talking about when we talk about Egypt and the papyrus and the hieroglyphics. This is what it would look like. I'm so grateful that we have this tonight. We want to thank the lady behind the scenes for getting this for us. And
thank you, viewers, for that.
Thank you. So if we say, Jess, that Moses took the people out of Egypt into Canaan or Palestine or Jerusalem, that means he took a bunch of black people from Egypt to that land.
Yes.
Now, if you go to Egypt, those of you who are fortunate to be able to go, or you can do research. This is common knowledge. You can literally Google this. The Egyptians conquered from Egypt, right, what is now called the Middle East. But Jerusalem, Lebanon, Yemen, all those places were Egyptians that crossed over.
Yes.
And these were African people, black people. And the Quran says, you are a line, you are a bloodline. So somehow Moses is related to Noah, Noah is related to Abram, Abram is related to Jacob, Jacob is related to Ishmael, and so on and so on. So clearly, if this is a bloodline, if these prophets are a bloodline, then Jesus must be from Moses' bloodline. And if we, like we said, Moses comes from Egypt, he's black, he's leading black people into Jerusalem. Jesus is born in Jerusalem, and he is of the bloodline of Moses.
Yes.
The logical conclusion would be that Jesus was black. And the Bible confirms this by saying he has hair like wool, and the color of his skin, I suppose, would be something like my color of my skin. Bronzy, burnt bronze.
Of half a tan.
Yes, yes. Just slightly darker than a tan. Yes. I think I'm slightly darker than I think I'm slightly darker than a tan. And so even that corroborates, if we look at the Bible and the Quran, both corroborates that Moses was in Egypt. Egypt is in Africa. In Africa, you get black people, dark-skinned black people, especially that side of the equator. They were very dark. Us here in the south, we're a bit lighter than the rest. Yes. The Khoisan, particularly, we are a bit lighter than our Bantu brothers and sisters.
Like they call us yellow bone.
They call us.
Or most of us.
Most of us are yellow bone. Yes. Well, at least 50. Let's say half and half.
Yes.
Yes. 50% is what they call yellow bone or a lighter shade. Whether you are Bantu, whether you are Khoisan, it doesn't really matter. You get light shades in both. So if you look at the northern part of the equator, they were very dark. Yes. And so if Moses was that side of the equator in Egypt, African continent, African country, you would logically, and like we showed with the papyrus, when the Egyptians drew themselves, brown skin, curly, what we would call, it's quite a common style now, I see.
Conroe.
Not the cornrows, it's like a curl that runs down.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
which makes the hair shape in that form. Very good example of how I think Moses would have looked, or his hair would have looked. If you go look at the indigenous people of Somalia, Ethiopia, Kenya. Yes. Ghana, Nairobi.
Yes.
Oh, Nairobi is the capital of.
Yeah.
Yes. But they still, up to this day, wear their hair. The way Moses' hair is portrayed in the books, in the movies.
So if I can, just now my imagination, I can imagine how their hair looks like. Like you said, the hair is long.
Yes.
With a curl.
Yes.
It's almost like a spiral.
Yes.
Yes.
It's called the S-curl. Yeah. Oh, it's called the S-curl. Yes, it's called the S-curl. It's called the S-curl.
So they quite, to my imagination, they had long hair. The hair weren't even the men. The hair weren't that short.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they had long hair. I just want to show the audience a picture of the Pope of the Roman Catholic Church. He is bowing down to the Madonna, or what we call Madonna. If the audience can see how that looks. So as you can see, sorry. As you can see, that is a picture of the Madonna, and that is the Pope, Roman Catholic Pope, and clearly that is dark figures that he's standing in front of. The portrait is the Black Madonna. Anybody can research it. You can go and research what the Black Madonna looks like, and where it is hung. And my question is, if the Pope of the Roman Catholic Church is bowing to a black Mary and a black Jesus, why here in Africa do we have a picture of a white man with blue eyes and long blonde hair when the Pope, the head of the Roman Catholic Church, is bowing to a black Mary and a black Jesus? If he's the leader, then we should follow his lead.
Yes.
So why is his lead different to my lead?
Yes. That was also a conversation we had with a young lady today.
Yes.
And we explained to her that these leaders, they are popes, because she's, like we mentioned earlier, she's a Roman Catholic. These white popes, or these popes, they worship the Black Madonna behind closed doors, when no one is looking, basically in their countries. So here in Africa, Roman Catholic, I don't know when, but like you said, it's hundreds or thousands of years ago. And they made us believe that...
No, they came here. Let me just correct you. They came here about real missionary work was done in the last 200 years, the real missionary work. The first 200 years was more of murdering and just awful things, raping, killing our babies.
And we explained it to her.
Yes.
Just the way you were saying it now. We explained to her that our women were raped, our men were killed, our babies were thrown to crocodiles, and she was shocked. She was shocked, and when we asked her about this photo in her living room, when we asked her about where Egypt is, she didn't know. She didn't. So it basically means we don't do research on who we are, where we come from. I also had a conversation today with some people on social media where I told them that if you don't go back and look for your parents, meaning resided back way in 1904, 07 in southern west, southwest Africa, Southwest Africa, where everything started, where the very, very first people resided. You will never understand the history of Egypt because it means you have to go back to the Khoisan, which is us.
The original, the
Yes.
first, yes.
To fully understand the whole history. So now it's convenient for us just to let me just leave out that part. I cannot go there. Let me rather focus on, I like this more. But one really has to go back and really do research on how everything started to understand all these things.
I just want to read we've used the Bible a lot to corroborate why we say the prophets were a black race, right? So I just want to read a verse from the Quran
Yes.
that corroborates
Yes.
that the first man
Yes.
was black. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah 15, I just want to get the surah, sorry, I thought I was there before we started, but it is Surah 15, Al-Hijr, that is the surah, and the verse is verse 26, and the verse reads, and surely your Rabb or sustainer, verse 26, Surah 15, Al-Hijr, verse 26. And surely we, Allah, have created man from wringing clay, which was black mud. So even the Quran describes the first human being being made of black mud, which means the skin color was black. Why would God be so specific to call out the color? God could have just said, I made you of mud.
Yes.
It would have been simple.
Yes.
But he specifically says black mud, so that we can understand that the first man was black. And as we have said now, the Khoisan are the first, according to science.
Yes.
We don't even make that claim. Science makes that claim. Although we believe that always, that we were the first, but now science corroborates that the people of Southern Africa, the Khoisan, are the first, like I've said so many times, the first human beings, the first creation that could think and
like we know it as Adam.
We know Adam. Yes, the Bible and the Quran describes him as Adam. And when God describes what he was made of, specifically Surah 15, verse 26, everybody can go and read it up. You can read the Arabic and the English and do the roots, to the male and the female sounds, and it all comes down to the same thing, black mud. So if you look at every translation of this, from Yusuf Ali to Shabir, there's so many versions, they all say the same thing, black mud. Which just proves that not only was the first man black, but that every line of the prophets, because they are a bloodline,
Yes.
is black. And so even the Quran and the Bible proves that the prophets, Moses, Abraham, Jesus, Noah, Lot, there's so many, Ezekiel, all black men. All black men.
David, Joseph.
When the Quran describes and when the Bible describes where they are, it's either in a desert, they're either sent into the desert, or it's close to the desert, or God talks about the Bedouins, which is people that trek through not only deserts, but predominantly
mostly it's desert.
Desert, yes. And I have not seen a single person, a white person, being in the desert, let alone for 40 years.
Mm.
Because isn't it true that Moses and his people wandered for 40 years in the desert because they did not obey God's commandments? These were all black people, and that is why they survived. Because they are used to the sun. Our skin is made for the sun. Our
Of
skin,
course, a few of them passed on along the way, but most of them survived.
yes, they all survived. Most of them survived, like you said, but they survived because they were used to this type of climate. They were used to, their skins are dark.
Yes.
And that's always how it's been. Africa is dark, Africa is black. And if the prophets are coming from Egypt and the surrounding areas, there's nowhere in the Bible, in the Quran, in the Torah ever been spoken of snow or the weather being, I don't know what to say, even like overcast or dark or
Yes.
snowy, cold, and it's always
The sun.
the sun, close to the sun, close to the desert.
Yes.
And we know Africa is one of the largest deserts, especially, particularly in that part of Africa. It's called the Sahara.
Yes. The Sahara
The
Desert.
Sahara Desert. And that is where these people were. And the Sahara Desert is in Africa,
Yes.
close to Egypt. We spoke to a lady this afternoon, didn't we? And we
Yes.
explained all these things to her. And she agreed with us.
Yes. She did, although she was scared
Yes.
to get rid of whatever. But she did later on listen. She listened. And she understand. She as our Rasta brother says, overstand. So she understand what we were explaining to her. And we also advise her to go do research and to watch our podcast as we speak. And she really understood what we were talking about. So I believe that all black people, irrespective of what their beliefs are, or where they are in life, whenever we speak to one another, somehow, something you will understand. And we spoke to her, and that made me feel a little better, because I have engaged with a lot of black people, especially in America, and the way those people are enlightened. And when I speak of the first people, they listen. And the one that I showed you this afternoon, who responded on one of my comments, he even answered my comment that I made. He just put it out broader for everyone to understand. So I want to speak tonight directly also to my Southern African brothers, Southwest African brothers and sisters, specifically South Africa and Namibia. We are here. We did this podcast because of us. Because if I say our people, I think you know what I mean. We have been overlooked for a long time, and we are here to bring the message closer. Please don't be shy. Any comment that you leave, we will try our best to answer it according to God's will, of course.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
Inshallah.
And my sister said today that we as black people should unite. We should own whatever it is that we have to own. And that we should, in Afrikaans sê jy, gee erkenning. Erkenning, like give recognition to who you are, plain and simple. And I will say this in every podcast, and I think you will also hear it in the previous podcast that we did, that I am very, very much on go within, because that is where I start. That is where I was forced to go to
For answers.
for answers.
For answers, yes.
Because, as I've also said last week, the book are inside of us. It's not an outside thing, it's an inside thing. My people, we are moving in times where we need one another and we need to stand strong. And I'm humbled by this chance I have in life to do this and to be part of this. Thanks to God and thanks to my sister right here next to me, who made all this possible for us to do what we have passion for, who we are. So thank you, God, and thank you, Sabiha.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Yes. It's like you said, it's all thanks to God. It's all thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has created us from black mud, who has given us the ability to go within ourselves and hear Him and connect with Him, and has given us the akil, the wisdom to be discerning. Is that the word?
Yes.
Yes, to be discerning. And so that is what we have to do. We have to be discerning. Unfortunately, like I said, history is always written by the conqueror. Unfortunately, the conquerors are white, and they made everything white. I always tell people, in the southern part of Africa, most black people are Christian. They follow Christianity. There's very few of us that follow Islam. Khoisan. Not very few, but the majority, can I say the majority, follow Christianity. And when I speak to them and I tell them that I am Muslim, they ask me, how can you be Khoisan and Muslim? Because they believe that Islam is a Arab, what is now the Arabs, and I put that in inverted commas.
Yes.
These Arabs are not black. And so how can you follow a Arab religion if you're saying that you are African? And I tell them, no, I beg to differ. Islam is an African religion. If God says that Abram was made of black mud, if God says that Moses was in Egypt and we saw the hieroglyphics and the color of their skin, which is Moses' people, which is dark skin, if we say that Jesus had wool, the texture of wool, and the feet the color of bronze, and these people were in a line, then where's Muhammad? That would make Muhammad black. Now, I went for Umrah, which is a couple of months ago, and I met people there, many, they all over. And I started talking to them. I said to them, where in Africa are you from? And they looked at me strange and they said, no, we're not African, we are Arab. And I believed them because they were they were convincing, but they were also, I could hear that these people were being truthful. They really believe that they are Arab. And that is when I went to do more research. And I found out that the Egyptians of that time moved into the Middle East, or what is called the Middle East. I believe it is part of Africa. But history is written by the conqueror, and now it is the Middle East. And so when you look at the trek of the Egyptians, they go into Jerusalem, Babylon, Iran, Iraq. And it's another clue and it's the only time when black is mentioned when it comes to Islam.
Yeah.
That the Prophet chose a man named Bilal to make the Iqamah, to say that Allahu Akbar, you've heard me pray, Allahu Akbar. That was actually a black man that did that.
Yeah, you mentioned some time back about Malaysia.
No.
What was for conversation? I don't know if I heard correct, if I can remember correctly. Something was Islam in Malaysia.
No, Malaysia, Malaysia is an Islamic country.
Mm.
But when you talk about the prophets,
Yeah.
and we are saying we are saying Adam, Moses, Jesus were black. And God says that these men are bloodline, they are descendants of one another.
Yes.
Naturally, Muhammad wouldn't be an exception to the rule.
Yes.
He would be the same as his ancestors, which are black. And if you look at the way Islam is practiced, what Nabi Musa said, who was a black man in Africa, submit to Allah or bow to God alone, which is the same message that Muhammad brought.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So we can say that Moses was a Muslim because he submitted to God, he submitted to the one God. And our Quran talks about Moses as a Muslim, as somebody, or when God describes people, he says, those who submit. That is what a Muslim is. If you submit to the will of God, everything is to the will of God, makes you a Muslim. And Moses said, I submit to the Lord of Abraham.
And everything comes down to one God.
To one God. Which means Islam is not an those Arab religion. That Islam is an African religion. And many follow it now. But I am following what my ancestors practiced, which is Islam. Christianity is also an African religion.
Yes.
Judaism, also an African religion. These are not white religions or Middle Eastern religions. These are African religions, black men praying to one God. So sis, on that very interesting note, any last words? Because we have to close off now.
No, you said it all as usual.
Ah.
You said it all.
Oh, thank you.
Like I said the other day, I'm still learning a lot, but I thank God that I'm eager to be here, and I'm not afraid. I respect everyone. I just fear God. Yes. So thank you, viewers, and thank you, sis, for this wonderful evening, for this insight.
Yes.
And I hope that you enjoyed our 40 minutes. I hope it's 40 minutes.
Yes, I'm not sure because we don't have time.
Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you will leave some comments. We would love to hear from you, please.
Inshallah.
Don't be shy, don't be scared. Any comment we will answer if we can.
Yes.
So
we love engaging with people,
yes,
don't we? It's one of our favorite things to do. Yes, we love engaging with people. So
please like, share, subscribe, do everything you can. Send someone loves.
Yes.
And thank you once again for tuning into our podcast. You are so appreciated. And thank you for the love that you give us. Thank you for your time. Thank God for this. Yes.
So as you were saying, Jess, you only fear God.
Yes.
And the Quran says many times the same thing. So I just want to read this verse.
Please do.
So in Surah 3, Surah means chapter, verse 175, God or Allah, just interesting, just out of interest. Allah is the Arabic word for God.
Yes.
So in Saudi Arabia, in the Middle East, even Christians call God Allah.
Yes.
The Jews call God Allah.
Yes.
It doesn't. If you speak Arabic,
yes,
you say Allah.
Yes. Even me as a Christian,
yes,
if I feel to call God Allah, I will call God Allah. As long as you are comfortable with whatever.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily mean you need, like my sister explained, everything is a godly thing.
Yes.
She said it in so many words, but it comes all back to everything, all these beliefs, or the Christianity, the Islam, is God. It's one God.
It's one God.
Yes.
And so the verse, Surah 3, verse 71, 75. So do not fear them, but fear me, God, if you are a true believer. And so you said you fear nobody, you only fear God. True believer.
I respect everyone.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes, yes.
But only fear
Only fear God.
the great one.
The great one, the creator. Alhamdulillah. So on that note, everybody, what a beautiful note to end off with. Respect everybody, but fear God alone.
God alone.
Thank you, everybody. I'm going to ask our lady behind the scenes. She's just a bit busy, so she has to turn off the camera. But anyway, good night, everybody. Please like and subscribe and join us for another episode.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sister.
We did this together. Yay! Thank you, everybody. Bye.